Welcome, everybody, to the 50th episode of the Business Line Podcast, the daily BLP here coming at you for number 50. Super excited to be here. Today is Friday, June 27th, 2025, and this is the first time I've sat down to record a show all week. I'm here all by my lonesome. Everybody checks out early on Fridays. Nobody likes to come along. That's okay. I've got some updates for you. How's the business doing? How's the world doing? What's going on in sports? All that fun stuff. We're going to catch you up and get you out of here and ready for a great weekend. But first, before we do that, quick word from our sponsor for today, Panacea Smart Solutions, Scribe remote scribe services. Are you a doctor or a nurse practitioner or some sort of medical provider that sees patients, that got into that business to help them be healthy mentally, physically, their mouth, their eyes, their ears, who knows? But is that you? And you're tired of dealing with documentation? Are your days chock full of seeing patients, and then when the day's done, you're still working because you got to take all that documentation, get it just right, bill it out so you get paid? Because if you don't get that documentation done correctly, you're not getting paid for the services you provided. If you're struggling with that, if it's impacting your lifestyle, or if it's impacting your ability to earn revenue, either because you're way behind in your notes or because you'd like to see more patients in your practice, well then Scribe is right for you. This service gives you a real person, not a piece of software you have to talk to, not an AI that you have to babysit that gets a little bit, dumber every day. A real person that is with you day in, day out, giving you the type of notes that you need to make sure that your patients get the care that they deserve and you get paid for the services you render. So if you're in a place where you want more lifestyle, you're feeling a little burnt out, or you want the ability to grow your practice, you might just need a scribe. You should be talking to the folks over at Scribe. Look them up, www.panaHealthCareSolutions/medical-scribe-services, or give them a call, 920-309-6113. All right, moving right on into the first segment of the show. What is going on in the world of Panacea Smart Solutions and all the crazy stuff we're doing? Well, this is my first day in the office, folks. Not my first day back. Yesterday was my first day back, but I was out on the road a little bit here locally, doing a discovery meeting for a business about an hour away from our office here. But I was back in all day today, had a couple meetings, but we were in, myself and my business partner, Manish, or lovingly known as Manny, we were in North Carolina. And for some strange reason, we got a bug up our butt and decided to drive out there. So with stops, it's about 15 hours nonstop. Nonstop meaning not stopping anywhere to sleep and stuff like that. So Monday morning, got up before the butt crack of dawn, got my butt ready, met Manny down where he lives, close to North Milwaukee area, jumped in his car, drove straight through, only stopped for gas and food a couple times, all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was fun. He drove the whole way like a madman there. And then I ended up driving the whole way like a madman back. I don't recommend it. Nobody needs to be a hero when you're driving that long. Just switch. You stop, switch every couple hours. You get a rest, be fresh. I was beside myself yesterday. Brain fog. I got in at 4 a.m. Thursday morning and got a couple hours of sleep. And usually I'm good on that. But man, I don't know if it was just the kind of the stress of driving that long or kind of everything that had happened while we were gone from a standpoint of, what we learned about opportunities and stuff. But man, yesterday it was crazy. I had to drive an hour and a half from my house to this discovery meeting. Great meeting, by the way. Good opportunity, not big, but good, solid opportunity. I think we'll be able to close it here in the next couple of weeks. And then drive back. I had to rush back to get to a baseball game that I needed to coach, which was a reschedule from our normal Tuesday night games because I was gone Tuesday. So and it just happens. I do a really poor job of blocking off my calendar when I get back from these trips. I think that I'm going to be fired up and ready to get back to it, but I need time to decompress and figure out what's going on. But yesterday I was just kind of slammed with a bunch of different things. But so I had the games at 6:00. I require my team to get there an hour early, and my coaches get there an hour early so that we can, get prepared to play the game. I didn't roll in until 5 minutes before the game started, and blessed with great coaches, great parents. Nobody freaked out. Everybody got what they needed to get done to be ready for the game. So that's good. We're not talking baseball now. We're talking business. My meeting went really well. On the way back, I changed into my coaching uniform and on the road. I don't advise doing that. But auto drive can be helpful. Let's just say that. Anyway, and I'm up high in my truck, so nobody can kind of see down into my truck when I was just in my skivvies. So that worked out okay. But great little meeting. Local, well, somewhat local to our area. Building company, about 10 employees. They had an IT guy over the last few years. Not internal, just a guy, they've paid to help them with IT. He's retiring. They want a relationship with a business that can give them some guarantees like we can. So it's probably going to be worth about $1,500 a month. And I think we can do a really good job for those folks. Anyway, the meeting in North Carolina, whoa, that was crazy. So, we've been doing this for going on 9 years in September, and, you come across all kinds of stuff when you're a small business and you're building businesses. You're taking whatever you can get. A lot of what you get kind of start to feel like table scraps, and you help people out the best you can, and you try to make things profitable. You try not to give away too many things for free because those will stack up and kill you. But this opportunity, a little over a year ago, what came in, we actually got an email for an RFP. I think that's what it was, off of some Google Ads stuff. We got an RFP. I usually don't give RFPs the time of day because it's usually just tire kickers looking to kind of use your blood, sweat, and tears on all this complicated RFP stuff, and just to give a comparison to who they're going to choose anyway. So, but I said, you know what, let's do it. Not that we were desperate, but let's do it. Let's see what happens. We ended up winning the RFP, which was for full revenue cycle management services for a startup. At the time, they were called Senior Virtual Care. And their shtick was that they were going to leverage telemedicine visits to help senior living facilities or senior nursing facilities. They like to call them SNFs, nursing homes, things like that, assisted livings. The problem there that they were solving is nursing homes, when their residents, something happens and they send them to the emergency room, that's very expensive. And 8 or 9 times out of the 10, they don't even need to go to the emergency room. But they don't have the staff on site to be able to properly assess beyond a shadow of a doubt that they don't need to go to the nursing or the emergency room. So they end up sending them. And it's an orchestration to get them there. First of all, you got to have the staff to get folks into a position to get them on an ambulance, get the ambulance there, pay them to thousands and thousands of dollars just to get them to the emergency room, where when they get there, they might just need a Tylenol, or they might just need something that it's not an emergent situation that their life is in jeopardy. So what Senior Virtual Care's goal was to solve that problem by doing a telehealth visit with a doctor, like an ER consult. Like what happens when you get to the ER, they give you they work you over to see if you even need to be there, right? Usually you wait a while, you get in there, and then you find out it's not so bad. Take 2 Tylenol, call me in the morning, right? Or you get in there, yep, you got a broken arm, we're gonna need to set that, we're gonna need, it's a good thing you came, right? Okay. So in this situation, their whole thing is to put specific type of monitoring hardware devices in the facilities, like on a cart, to bring it to the resident, like a CNA or a nurse, on site, brings this thing in, hits a couple buttons, calls the doctor. Hold on, someone's trying to get in the meeting. Who is this here? Who's trying to get in? Is that Matt? Is Matt coming in? Is that Matt?
Hey, Brian, I'm here.
Dude.
How are you doing, brother?
What's up, Matt?
Not much.
Way to drop in right in the middle of the show. Good job, bud.
Cool.
We got Matt, everybody.
How are you doing?
We're good. We're good,
Cool.
and we're all set up, and we're recording. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course.
So,
glad to be here. Glad to.
Now I'm not
get
talking
on.
to myself anymore for a little while. Happy Friday, man.
Happy Friday. How was your week?
Good. I'm just kind of talking about my trip right now. I'm sweating bullets. The heat is literally on in our facility. The air conditioning went out and it's blowing hot air and they can't stop it.
Oh, geez.
So I'm the only one left. Everybody left at or before lunchtime because they're all sweating bullets. But I had some meetings that I had to stay in town for, so I just toughed it out.
Yep.
It's like
Definitely.
I'm just losing weight anyway. It's like being in a sauna. So I got this dark purple shirt on, so you can't tell that I am. Yeah, I'm liberally applying deodorant every 30 minutes or so. I'm just saying.
Nice.
But
Good
anyway,
stuff.
so yeah, you kind of came in the middle of the story.
Cool.
But I'm basically explaining why we were in North Carolina. So
Okay.
we were in Charlotte to meet with a company even at the time we were there, we didn't know it, but they were announcing a name change called Senior Virtual Care. A focus on telehealth, using telehealth. So like getting on a Zoom call or like a phone call with a patient. In this case, nursing homes, places like that, SNFs, senior nursing facilities, to assess whether or not someone who's had an incident needs to go to the emergency room before they go.
Okay.
Because right now at those kind of places, if someone has a little fall or gets a bump or experiencing some kind of traumatic event, the statistic is like somewhere around 8 or 9 times out of 10 they don't even need to go.
Yeah.
Right? They go through a whole orchestration to get them on an ambulance, to move them there, to get them into the facility. They're seen at the ER, and the doctor's like, didn't necessarily need to be here. So there's a huge expense that that's either covered by the facility, or sometimes a lot of time it might be covered by the insurance. Someone's paying for this that doesn't want to pay for it, especially if they hear they didn't need to go.
Yep.
Right. So senior virtual care's deal was to be a virtual emergency room consult before you figure out if you got to send them. So let's say your grandma's in the nursing home. She, stubs her toe, but it's serious, like life or death toe stubbing. And CNA rolls this little card in with the screen, boop, 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 a few touches on the screen, and you've got a doctor on the screen. And now the doctor says, okay, plug in the otoscope. I need to look in her ears or look under her toenail or whatever. And so he's going to get some feedback real time on that. Okay, now put on the heart rate monitoring cuff. Let's take blood pressure, all that stuff. It's going to show feedback on the screen to the CNA or nurse and the patient, who might not even be responsive. I mean, this is serious toe stubbing, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the doctor's going to get all this feedback, and they're within a very short amount of time going to say, it's a go or it's a not. Here's what we need to do, right? So their whole thing is, if we can cut that other incident out and bill out for those services, you're saving a ton of money to the facility or the insurance provider, or possibly even the patient if they don't have coverages and stuff. So that's their shtick. So we went there, and this was a year ago that they became our clients. We won an RFP, and we're like, this is exciting. They're going to just explode. You need this so much. Well, the management structure they put in place screwed the pooch. They just didn't do a good job. It didn't go anywhere. They chose us to do all their billing and stuff, but all they had us doing was credentialing, which is basically getting the doctors and nurse practitioners and stuff set up to be able to accept payments from different insurance companies, right? So we were doing that, knocking that out of the park, getting those guys all set up. But they had a couple internal people that were kind of puppy garden the billing stuff because they didn't want to lose their jobs. So they never sent the billing our way. Well, they didn't get paid for anything for a year. So they never grew. And so what happened is the management company is called Health Alliance. They fired all the major people, hired all new people. And the assistant to the board of directors for Health Alliance, she was the one we were working with for the credentialing, and she loved us. So she spoke so highly of us to her boss, the chairman and the board of that company, that was funding senior virtual care, even though senior virtual care was kind of defunct. Nothing was happening. They're like, okay, we're going to try this one more time. They got some big investors from India, from this company called Reliance. And I never heard of this company, but we got an email, and they're like, hey, we're resetting, but we want you to do our billing. We want to have a meeting for you guys to propose that. And Susan, who was the assistant to the chairman of the board, she just sang our praises because the credentialing went so well. So we get into this meeting, we get to know their people, they kind of fall in love with us, we send them a proposal, they sign on for a full year at our highest percentage instead of, multiple years at a lower percentage, because they're really they got to test us out to see if we can even do what we say we can do.
Right.
And so we won that deal. But
Nice.
that in that call we had is when I found out. I heard she's like, yeah, so we're doing this meeting. We'd like you to come, Brian, to be represented as one of the owners of Panacea, just to come meet some of our stakeholders, our board members, some of our major investors from India, from this company called Reliance. And I write down Reliance. I don't know who the hell they are, but I write it down because I'm going to look them up. Right? I'm like, oh, maybe it's a little company. There's hundreds and thousands of companies in India, and I'm like, cool, yeah, that sounds good. So I got off the meeting and we started coordinate that. And I'm like, I'm trying to set up my plane tickets, and Manny comes in and he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, we got this meeting coming up. I'm going to North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, it sounds fun. Should I go? I go, you can come if you want. He's like, yeah, I'll come too. So I sent an email. Can he come? Yeah, he can come. Bring him along. Great. They paid for the whole thing except for my travel. But nice. I'm like, they said they've got new backing now, and they're really excited to start growing. They're getting their investors are from a company called Reliance, and all of a sudden, Manny's face looked like he saw a ghost. Like he froze, and it's just a blank expression on his face. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, Reliance? Are you sure? Is that what they? I said, that's what she said. I'll find the Zoom meeting recorded, and you can hear it. They said Reliance. What's up? Who's Reliance? He's like, it's literally the biggest company in India. It's the biggest,
Nice.
It's like India mega corporation. So I'm like, whoa. He's like, they're into everything.
Nice.
Energy, oil, textiles. He told me this story about how Reliance, like a couple years back, there was one major company in India that was like the internet service provider over there, like the big one, Airtel, I think it was called, something like that.
Okay.
And that's who he had and stuff. But everybody had Airtel. It was the number one, it was the biggest one. And then Reliance decided they wanted to get into internet service providing. So they made a plan, built out this everything they needed to do, and they offered it for free to anybody and everybody for a full year. So everybody's like, why not? I'll just sign on. I'll have two, and now I got more internet bandwidth and blah, blah, blah. So Manny did the same thing. He signed up for it for a year. And then he said it was so good, even free, the service, the speed, the technology, the connectivity. It was so good. When the year was up, and he had to start paying for it. It was way more expensive than his old one, but he still cut his old one and kept it. And he said now Airtel is almost completely gone, and it's all Reliance. I can't remember what Geo something is the name of their service that they do. But anyway, Reliance, big deal. Lots of buku dollar to back this organization. So that our antennas really went up. It was like, oh, because we've never really been in the room with major players and anything like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're like excited and nervous at the same time.
Right.
A couple weeks later, Manny comes in. He's like, I don't want to fly. I'm going to drive. He thought I already had my tickets. I'm like, well, I didn't buy my tickets yet. I guess I'll ride with you. Don't really want to drive, but it'll be fun. Road trip. So we road tripped it 15 hours nonstop. Well, stop for gas, but there and back. But while we were down there, so there's about 25 people that were attending. A couple vendors kind of like us. The CEO of the new company, they changed the name to Dr. Triage. They unveiled this new giant, I think it's a little bit too big and bulky, but this giant kiosk on wheels that they'll roll into the room, when they need to do this this event to find out if folks need to go to the emergency room. I mean, they're doing it the right way. They had like lobbying consulting companies in DC that were there presenting on how they're going to, lobby the government and get money and budgets that will go back to this and all this. So they're doing this thing big. But it was kind of neat to hear about, because the one big question mark from the last year and even moving forward is how the hell are we going to get paid for what we're providing? Because they couldn't do it last year. Whoever's doing their billing couldn't figure it out. We're saying we can. Hope to hell we can. No, I think we can. It's just a matter of they're using a software company that Reliance has hired to build their own EHR and their own practice management billing software. And the billing software isn't done yet. So we're meeting with them to help kind of consult with them on what needs to happen functionally for that. So that's still a big question mark. So that was exciting I was sitting next to the software guy from India. His name was Jay. And right next to Jay was Nilesh Modi. So if you look up Nilesh Modi, look up his LinkedIn, look him up on Google, he's on the small chairman circle to the chairman of that company. So and he's super nice dude, very down to earth. It's generally been my experience meeting people in very important positions. I mean, if you didn't know it, you would think he could be your neighbor, and then you could just have a normal conversation with him. You could tell hyper intelligent, very, lots of 27 years of experience kind of working his way up in that company. But that was really cool. I think it's Nilesh Modi, Nilesh Modi. But man, that was an honor just kind of meeting him and just figuring out that he's, he definitely didn't carry himself in a way that said, I'm above everybody in the room, worship me. You know what I mean? Right. Sometimes, as people in the world, we kind of think that that's how people in those positions are, but I found it to be less often the case. Yeah. And then right next to him is a guy named Bob Dudley, who used to be like the CEO of BP. He's the CEO and founder of Health Alliance, and he's in all kinds of oil and gas industry. So he's like best buddies with the chairman of Reliance. Another super nice, down the earth guy, just very humble, very appreciative of everybody in the room. But the one thing it was like that kept coming up throughout this day and a half of presenting, all these different vendors were presenting how they're going to, like it was the sales and marketing company, how they're going to market the product, how they're going to sell it. It was the like their auditors were there, the government people were there. There was all these presentations going. We didn't have to present because they weren't ready to even talk about how we're going to, but I was always like, this is all great, guys, but we're so glad that Panacea is here because they're going to be the ones that make sure we get paid. And every time they say that, I'm like proud, but at the same time, I'm like, oh,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So
cool.
That was the trip. So it was fun. Didn't really get to do any fun stuff. We did go out and visit Sean where we did the podcast that one time.
Remember that
a year ago. Yeah. So that was cool. I got, this is the first time that Manny's met Sean in person. We did a quick tour, but it was so tight because we drove in, got there like 10 o'clock at night, checked in, basically went to bed, got up the next morning, all day there. During their presentations, had like kind of they had like an open bar and cocktail kind of mingle until midnight that night. Went to bed, got up the next morning, half a day of more presenting, and then we got back on the road because I needed to be back, catch a little sleep because I had basically a full day of work on Thursday.
Right.
So I was talking about earlier before you dropped in, I was a mess on Thursday. Right. Like, I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but I was struggling to like focus and I had this major brain fog. Like, I just want the day to be done. I had to coach last night. So that was fun. But at the same time, I was struggling to be in the mood to do that because I was just so baked from the last 3 or 4 days and 15 hours. Cause I drove the whole way back. Manny drove the whole way down and I drove the whole way back. We had to act like we were Ironman or something.
Right.
But yeah, so that was my week, man. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, good stuff. Pretty good week here. Just chugging along, creating a lot of good content for our clients. A lot of good discovery calls with coaches and consultants. Kind of like I was saying, we're getting more into the testimonial field for a lot of prospects and things of that nature. So been running an algorithm doing that. Have a pretty crazy response rate, about a 20% response rate for reaching out to them. So that's really big. Just chugging along here, leading up to next week. We'll be taking off Thursday and Friday for the holiday next week. So just chugging along, trying to get everyone in a good spot for late next week. But yeah, pretty normal week. Sales calls, creating content, all that good stuff. But no travel. So I commend you though, because I know how draining that travel can be, because not only physically, but mentally, because it's a different type of drain when you're talking to new people and selling, just doing that constantly. That's just draining. So kudos to you for that. Sounds like
you're like, you got to be on point and you got to be like constantly in this kind of mood of, I'm generally, I'm always an upbeat and positive guy, but it's even more so like boom, boom, boom. You got to be like, don't let it get through you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you're driving, when you're flying back, you got multiple flights or whatever, and you spend all day in the air, waiting at airports. It's draining too, but it's different.
Yeah.
When you're driving, your foot's on the gas, driving from Wisconsin to North Carolina is half flat, half mountains. You're from that area out there. You've been through.
Yep.
So on the way down, we went down through Chicago, down through Indianapolis, and then we went across Ohio, straight into West Virginia, through West Virginia, down through Virginia, and then straight down North Carolina, down to Charlotte. So I had never been to West Virginia and Virginia. And let me tell you, it was beautiful.
Yep.
It's crazy, but you're in the mountains. It's not just, you can't just like set the cruise and like drive chill. You're like slow and fast and slow and fast.
You got to be locked in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then on the way back, I'm like, well, I don't want to go the same way back and see all the same stuff. Let's, instead of coming the top and going back up the top, let's go down, over, and up.
Yep.
So we went west out of Charlotte, and then all through all those mountain towns, and I didn't realize it. You just see kind of the blue line where it's going to take you. Well, that way it wasn't highway. It was like old highway where it's 2-lane, and you're hitting all these small towns in the mountains, and sometimes you're going 10 miles an hour, sometimes you're going 25, sometimes you're going 45. So like the first 4, it's only supposed to take I think it was only supposed to take like 3 hours to get to Lexington or something like that.
Yep.
It took 4.5 or more because, we're stuck behind cars going slow and sightseeing. Again, it was beautiful. It was cool to see those rural towns because Manny's never seen those small little towns like that out east. Yeah. So it was neat, but it was a long day.
Yeah, that is long. I actually have a crazy story. Back in college, I went to Virginia Tech, so that's about as west of Virginia as you can go. It's actually, so you're literally on the border of West Virginia. So there was this really cool, snowboarding place called Snowshoe out in West Virginia. And so we would drive there for like a weekend, and there were 2 options, kind of like you said, the more highway way, or in this case, it was quicker to go the back routes, like through the mountains, swerve. And we decided to take that route on the way back. We didn't know how bad the snow was going to get. We were going up. Our cars started sliding.
Couldn't make it.
We couldn't make it. So we had to turn around, go back to the normal highway. We ended up making it. But I will probably remember that trip the rest of my life. Because just driving in the summer like this, you still got to be locked in, make sure, taking the turns right, going the right speed. But man, when that snow was coming, that was one of the few times in my life I was like, this is a life. My life is in danger right now. It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So glad we did it from a standpoint of we saw things we would never see if we chose to fly, because you miss those things. And the other part is, though, when if we were traveling together, like getting to the airport, waiting for a flight, getting on the plane, blah, blah, blah. What generally happens is you get locked into this, get to the airport, make it through security. You might be chit-chatting, but you're not really talking about things that have substance, right? Because you're just like, okay, now I'm lying, I'm checking my phone, I'm calling my wife, I'm sitting there, hey, bud, and then you sit down at your gate, and you pop out the computer, getting some work done. You're not really interacting with who you're with. Same thing on the plane. Everybody puts their earbuds in, pops open their show, falls asleep, whatever. And though I would have spent the whole day with my good friend and business partner Manny, we wouldn't have had a chance to kind of. It's almost kind of like, it's like when you reconnect with a significant other, like me and Manny are kind of like, we're best friends for sure. We're like brothers. We drive each other crazy to some degree, even though we probably won't admit it, but like we care a lot about each other and our families and stuff. But when you're in the thick of the business, his office is right next to mine. But most of the time, because we know what we got to do, he's locked into operations and putting out fires, and I'm locked into trying to get more leads and closing deals. Most of the time, if we stop in each other's office and are like, hey, man, what's up? How's it going? We just kind of, pretty good. Leave me alone. I got to get some stuff done. But in this case, we got to talking about a lot of stuff, man. We like heated conversations about strategy, and these are the kind of things that you got to do. And, some of it was some venting, about people that we're working with as far as in the company and stuff. And you come out of it, it's almost like a little planning conference for 2 days of driving. Cause now we're like, remember what we talked about? We got to get that done, and boom, boom, boom. So that was cool. That was a cool part of it. But man, Thursday, I wish I would have protected Thursday and just said nothing happens Thursday.
Yep.
That's what I should have done.
Yeah, that's what I try to do when coming back from a trip. Like, even though when you plan a trip, like, say I fly back in on a Sunday or something, depending on when I get in, I'll try to maybe do a half day or Monday or something like that. Because in my mind, I'm like, no, I can do it. But you can't really account for when you get back and that feeling of just drain. It's good to just have that reset day, and not even to say you're just going to take that day off, but to take that day to be able to catch up on things.
Do
like,
what you need to do. Not that you got to be here at this time. You got to be there at that time.
Yeah. Whoa, fireworks in the Zoom. I don't know if you just saw that. It just did.
I must have done something because I moved my hands around.
Yeah.
What's up? Anyway. Cool. What else? I didn't even look. I asked my outline organizer here to set me up with some news roads. What's going? We've been just hitting recap from the big NC. What's happening? U.S.-China rare earth deal revived. So impacts on auto, aerospace, defense, industry, and supply chains. I don't know. I got to look into that. I should have probably looked at this before the show started and done a little research. But apparently, maybe there's a rare earth deal going on, which I think we struck some kind of we're close to striking some kind of rare earth deal with Ukraine to kind of help support them in their shenanigans with Russia, because we want all those minerals to be able to make batteries and chips and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. What else? Got here. U.S. stocks at a record high, led by trade optimism and AI investment, offset by UK auto tariffs. Okay. Well, you'd like to hear that stocks are high for sure, because then people can't complain about things going on. I bet you some of that was helped by the whole ceasefire over in the Middle East between Iran and Israel over the last couple days.
Yep.
What else? Return to office mandates. Ooh, companies like JP Morgan, Amazon, and TikTok enforce on-site work. This is sparking debate on culture versus flexibility.
Interesting.
I got no empathy. I really don't. I don't. Like, listen, you're an employee. Do what the heck your company says you need to do to get your paycheck. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
I think, it's like my best friend, who I don't get to talk to that much anymore, probably my fault. I just, I rarely reach out, and I should do more, and I will, but he's been working from home for a long time, and he struggles with a few physical things, but a lot of that is this vicious cycle. It's like, if you don't get up off your keister over and over and over again, your health is going to deteriorate, and part of getting up is getting up, freshening up, cleaned up, looking good, being sharp, getting to work on time over and over daily, and, catching on that routine is a big part of your health too. And I just think, I don't know. Maybe it's just, this is me projecting. I know if I worked as an employee, which I never have to do again. I'm just bad at it. Let's just be honest. And I was allowed to work from home as a part of my job every day, day in and day out. I would find ways to not work and get paid for it.
Right.
I'm just being honest. I'm just saying, like, I'm not disciplined and strong enough to be on my own in my house and not distracted.
Right.
It's part of the reason as a business owner, I come in. I don't have to be here. Yep. I really don't. We've got staff here, could Zoom with them. Nobody's telling me, Manny, or my other business partner, Joe, that we ever have to come in. But as a part of it, like, we require people to come in. We're like, okay, to some degree, we got to show that we're willing to do the same. If we're not traveling or we're not at meetings or something like that, we're here because that's where we expect our people to be. And there's a camaraderie and there's even if it's friction that happens, like, things happen when you can get into an environment. If you're trying to have a team's got to get together, and a screen, I don't think does it.
Yep, definitely.
So, yeah, I struggle with empathy for people that whine because their companies are making them come back to work. And it's a kind of like my buddy. He, God, I love him to death. But he, a couple of years ago, when COVID hit, the company he was working for let everybody work from home. right? But then when it started to go away, they started pulling him back. Okay, now you got to come back halftime. Now you only get a couple days a week. And he started fighting that. And he was like, well, physically I can't anymore. You know, blah, blah, blah. I've got things. Is it okay? And what basically happened, the relationship with the company deteriorated enough and they just let him go.
Right.
So now he's in between jobs, completely employable, great skill set, like incredibly hard worker. I get it. Like, I don't think like he's much more disciplined when it comes to work than I am. So he could probably handle it and be super productive. And again, he doesn't have a lot of home distraction. He doesn't have 4 kids and a wife and all this kind of stuff that he can lock in and be locked in. But at the same time, it's going to be really hard if your work requirement to work somewhere is, I don't want to ever leave my house, you know?
Right.
So
definitely.
Anyway,
definitely.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you get to work from home. You're your own guy, right? Like, it's different with what you do.
It is, but I'd say, like, honestly, I'd prefer to, be in an office, down the line, growth for Pivot Studios. Would love to have an actual studio, have people in there and moving around. I think the best in between is maybe giving, hybrid, 1 or 2 a week. Maybe that's how you can ease people in. But just for me, I mean, when I graduated college, my first job out of college was completely remote. It was funny. I started the job and ended the job without meeting a single person in person, without ever setting foot into the office or any of that.
That's crazy to me.
And I hated it. And I struggled in that job because I wasn't able to, I was a new guy that was doing very analytical things. It was a difficult job in a good way. It was a good job, but it was a difficult job, which is why, hopefully we were hired to do that and paid the way we were because of the difficulty. So very grateful for that opportunity. But, I was just like, dang, I have a question. I got to team someone, be like, hey, can you hop on a Google Meet, blah, blah. Instead of just being able to get up, walk over to their desk, just take care of it in 5 minutes, being able to be like, hey, can you look at come here, look at this. And also just the social aspect, just wanting to be around people, seeing people, I just think
give
it's
somebody
so
a high five when something goes good, or have somebody to vent to when you need to, you know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. Just that collaboration. So for me personally, I would prefer to be in the office 5 days a week. That's just how I operate. And I agree with you. If your company says, hey, this is what we want you to do, I mean, you don't moan about it, just go for it. I would say. And, for those businesses out there, I think hybrid is a good way to start because I think the younger generation expects this now. And so to shift that paradigm, I think hybrid is good. But no, I agree with you. I don't really have a lot of empathy for the whining about it, especially just because the kind of person I am. I wish I was, right now Pivot could have that office and things like that. And that is the goal within a year. But yeah, that's where I stand on it for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point with the hybrid thing. Our buddies over at Arsenal, here's what they do. And I think you could do this with, especially with, incentivized KPI driven performance with whatever type of teams you have, is what they do is because they've got all these, they call them BDRs, business development reps. These are all these callers, like we got Bobby G. So every once in a while, I just had my weekly call with Bobby G earlier today. Every once in a while, on the call, I can tell you, I'm like, dude, you're not at your desk. And he's like, at home, right? And he's like, so depending on performance, they can win these awards every week and every month for that's really killing it. And then they can get home time, or they can get, extra kind of things. It's not like time off. They're still got to work and still got to perform, but now they don't have to come into the office.
Right.
So,
Yeah, incentivize. Yeah, that's a good one too.
So anyway, cool. All right, man. Well, we can't talk really too much about the finals because they're over.
Yep.
And we didn't get to comment on it real time, but by now everybody listening probably knows, if you care, that OKC brought home the bacon. What are your thoughts, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good series. I think it was the first Game 7 since 2016 or something like that. There hasn't been a Game 7
weird.
in a while. So it's cool to see, they did a good job with really ensuring the best 2 teams were out there. Terrible what happened to Halliburton. You never want to see that.
That's awful, man.
But at the same time, I mean, I don't blame them for going out there. I mean, you're in the finals, you have a calf strain. I know if it was me, I'm like, no, I'm playing. I'm getting out there.
For
This is
sure.
game 7 of the finals. It's just unfortunate it had to unfold that way. Huge shout out to Shy. I saw him go out and, kind of have some words with Halliburton after the game, just kind of hyping him up. So really, really great sportsmanship there. But wish him a speedy recovery. I'd like to think if that didn't happen, that would have been a really close game because I mean he came out firing with that game 7. So congrats to OKC, a speedy recovery to Halliburton, and I just think great series. I think it gave the fans what they wanted for sure overall.
Yeah, dude, I think you capped it off really good. I don't have much to add there. I just really quick while you were throwing that out, I looked up kind of the ratings and how this year's did. So for this year's, the 7-game series averaged 10.27 million viewers per game. It seems like a lot though, but it's a 9% decline from last year. So last year was Boston versus Dallas. They were at 11.1 million viewers, excluding the COVID impacted 2020 and 2021 seasons. This was the least watched NBA finals since 2007, Spurs versus the Cavs. I mean, still a lot of people. Yeah. But I think there's something to be said for that. There's a decline. And I don't know. I don't necessarily think, maybe it's the markets. Okay, so we got Indianapolis and OKC. Like those two teams, from a standpoint of if you go into other communities and cities in the country or in the world, you're not going to find a Pacers bar. You're not going to find... maybe you will start to, because what you need is you need longevity and success for that kind of stuff to spread. But so you're outside of those cities and just diehard NBA basketball fans. Yeah. You're not going to get the eyeballs, right? And eyeballs equals dollars from advertisements and stuff like that. Yep. I wish I could have spent more time watching. It's just not, I haven't figured out how in my life to be able to do that yet, but I was intrigued by the matchup. Hats off to both teams. They're both, I think, likable. It's hard to pick who you would rather win. I think you and I only picked Indiana because maybe historical aspect and kind of underdog status there from a standpoint of seeding. But, OKC, though they were top seeded, again, they're not a big market. They're super young. They don't spend the money that the other teams spend and stuff. Now the challenge is how do you extend that success using the same team principles or business principles. So definitely. But I will say Game 7 drew 16.6 million viewers. Nice. So that's good, but in all the other games, game 1 was 8.9, then 8.7. Then the other ones were in the 9s, the low to mid 9 millions. Again, that's still a lot of people. Yeah. You can say, oh, the NBA is declining. Well, still, it's popular. When 10 million people are watching something for 2.5 to 3 hours over the course of a couple of weeks, it's still a big deal. So 100%. Market size of OKC, where do you think they fall as far as their market size? Let's say in the from 1 to, I don't know what the top, let's say 1 to 50. Probably I'd say maybe 8 to 10 million. So OKC's market is ranked 47th. Okay. And Indianapolis is ranked 25th. Okay. So together, they represent 1.6% of U.S. TV households. Okay. So that's a big factor. You know what I mean? And a lot of people over the years, including myself, have always, with the prevalence of it's Boston's always in it, the Lakers are always in it. In the 90s it was always Chicago, but that was mainly because of Jordan. They're a big market, but they don't have a whole lot of prestigious history outside of the 90s of winning a lot of stuff. But it was always it's always the big teams. In baseball, it's always the Yankees. You know what I mean? It's always the Dodgers. They want these big markets, more eyeballs, more dollars. So they pad it and make it easier for them. But, when you got two teams that are low market, it shows a little bit of willingness to have some parity. But I saw this other cool thing too. I wish I would have had this stat. This is where it would be helpful to have more production live, because I saw this really cool infographic. It was 80s, 90s, or was it like 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and then the 20s we're in now. And it was like, it showed the logo of every team that won the finals. And like, and the 70s it was just 80s. And the 80s was mainly Lakers and Celtics, a little bit of Pistons, right? In the 90s, it was 91 Pistons. It was Bulls, Rockets, Bulls. It was Bulls, Rockets, Bulls. Then it was like Spurs, something, you know what I mean? It was, and then in the 2000s, there was a lot of Spurs in there, right? And Lakers. And then, but in the last 10 to 15 years, it's been a lot of, there's been a few times where it's been like Golden State and stuff, but especially over the last 6 or 7 years, it's been a different team every year, which is cool. Because like this year you got OKC, last year you got the Celtics, the year before that you got the Nuggets. What was it the year before the Nuggets? I think it was the Bucks, and before that it was you got the Lakers. But there's been a lot more. It's good to see new teams every time, I think.
Definitely, I agree, 100%.
Cool. All right, I told him to give me some standings for MLB. Let's see what's going on. National League West, Dodgers are leading, Padres and Giants are close behind. AL East, Yankees and Rays are neck and neck. Sox are trailing in the East. AL Central, Tigers are at 51-31, and Guardians are in second. 51-31 is pretty good at this point.
Yep.
20 games over 500. They didn't give me any other. See, this is what I'm talking about. This AI stuff. It's not. Give me the divisional standings, and that's what it gave me. It gave me 1 National League and 2 ALs. Check on guys. If you're using AI, you got to check on them, man. They're slacking. I would fire this AI if I could. Right? I'm telling you, GPT. I'm going to start using Grok. Anyway, because I wanted to see where the O's were, and I wanted what I wanted it to do, and I should have been more specific. Is give me each division and top to bottom. Each division top to bottom. Give me I should have said, give me each division top to bottom with records, but it didn't do that. So, I don't know. Where are the O's sitting right now, man?
They're creeping back up to 500 win percentage. They're still at the bottom of the barrel for the American League East. They're 34-46 right now, so still not doing great. But we're creeping up little by little. So we'll see. I still have faith until the All-Star break is where my mind's at.
Faith. Yeah, you gotta have faith, man.
Yep.
All right, let's see if I can get some quick standings here, because. All right, here we go. Yankees are at the top. Baltimore, they're in the basement, man. Sorry, bud.
It's all good.
But hey, it's a long season.
It is. Indeed it is.
All-Star game should be coming up pretty soon, right?
I think it's July 15th. I want to say. I know it's like mid-July. I want to say it's July 15th.
Where's it at this year?
I don't know.
All right, you find that. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to carry on my wayward son. AL Central, Detroit, 51-31. That's legit. Yeah, Cleveland's at 40-39. And Minnesota, KC, and the White Sox. White Sox have had a rough couple of years, poor guys. Let's see. Houston is at the top of I still think it's weird that Houston's in the AL because I grew up with them in the NL. I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. They swapped with the Brewers years ago. I think that's funny because I'm from Houston, and then I moved to the Milwaukee area when I grew up, and then they swapped too. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Anyway, they're 48-33. Seattle's trailing behind a little bit. Angels, Texas, and Oakland. Is it still Oakland? Because they're leaving after this year, right? They're going to Vegas, right?
Yeah, I think they're. I'm pretty sure they have like a stadium. I forget what stadium they're using right now, but yeah, they're already out of Oakland.
They're already there.
Pretty sure. Yeah,
that's weird. They're always going to be. I'll probably get over it sooner or later, but it's weird. There's no Oakland Athletics. Yeah. Anyway, I wonder if they'll end up keeping that name too, or if they'll eventually change it.
I think they're keeping Athletics. I'm really not sure though. I think it'd be kind of stupid to not at least keep the name.
I think there's some brand value there.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Oakland, everybody in California struggles to get people to games because there's so much other things to do out there.
Yeah.
You
And
know
they
what I
got
mean?
like freaking 4 teams for each sport too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like,
Yep.
you know, everybody sees dollar signs out there. You know, I'm still not over that the Rams are out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. St. Louis Rams. I remember that. Yep.
Right. NL East, the Mets are at the top. They're doing pretty good. They're 14 games over 500. Dang.
Yep.
Phillies they're only a game back, half a game back actually. Atlanta, Miami, and Washington not looking great. The Cubbies. Cubbies are 3 games up on the Brew Crew. With St. Louis a game and a half back of the squad. That's not bad. It's a tight race in the. It's always tight in the Central.
It is.
Always. I mean, and Cincinnati's right there too. They're only 6 games out. And then you got Pittsburgh, 16 and a half games back. But boy, that's a tight race. Okay. I should start paying more attention. And then the Dodgers are killing it. The Dodgers are 51 and 31 too. San Diego's not too far behind. San Francisco as well. Arizona and Colorado. Rockies aren't looking good, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, they're not. They're looking really bad this year.
I think they have by far the worst record in the league.
Yeah, they're really struggling right now. It's pretty crazy.
Dang.
And so I was right. All-Star game is July 15th, and it will be in Atlanta at Braves Stadium.
Hot Atlanta. Okay, cool. So what do you think about the baseball All-Star game? You like that it's for home field in the World Series?
Yeah, I think so. I think any other All-Star game in major sports, you can kind of tell the effort level. It's kind of just a show. They're just messing around. So like the NBA, they're just dunking, doing all that. And nothing wrong with that. But I just love that there's something on the line and these guys are still playing hard. And I don't know. I just, because of how many players there are in baseball and things like that and so many teams. And I don't know. I just always think, I grew up a baseball kid. So I just always thought it was so cool. You could have your favorite player from your team on third, and then you have Derek Jeter at short, and then you got Manny Machado, and like it's just so cool to see all those players on the field at the same time. I don't think there's another All-Star game like it. Like I said, I'm biased. I grew up a baseball guy, but I just always thought it was so cool, and they play hard because, like you said, home field advantage for the World Series. Yeah,
I am 100% on your side on this. 100%. Maybe I would be ticked off if the Brewers were awesome and the AL won and that, you know what I mean? I can see how fans get like that because they're like, dang it, we have the best record in baseball and now we don't have home field. That sucks.
Yeah, right.
But I think you're right. Like when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, the Pro Bowl was still cool. They still played hard. They hadn't gotten to the point where it was basically flag football. The Pro Bowl and all the stuff around the Pro Bowl was intriguing and fun to watch. They weren't still going all out, but it was still cool. The Pro Bowl is a joke. Most of the time people don't even show up for it. But I get it in football because that's a hard hitting contact sport. One wrong little thing in the baseball, you get hit by a pitch and you're done too, or you could roll an ankle, you're done for the season, blow out your knee. All those kind of things can still happen. But with professional football, it's 10 times more likely because it's a car accident between 22 people every play. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
Baseball's similar because you're on a higher athletic level, constantly running back and forth, jumping, doing these kind of things where you're high impact, higher risk of injury. With baseball, still high risk of injury, still a dangerous sport for sure, but you can still put meaning behind it, and the guys can still play hard, run hard to first base, really try to hit dingers or really try to get on all these kind of things because it matters. And then it doesn't jeopardize their career. Like, how often do you hear about somebody getting hurt in the All-Star game?
Yeah, never.
Oh, knock on wood, that doesn't happen this year.
Yeah, not never, but
people are going to be pissed, right?
Yeah.
But it's rare. So rare.
Very rare.
So I'm 100% behind you too. I'm glad that it has meaning. But, again, if the Brewers ended up with the best record of the two teams to be in the World Series, I'd be upset too. I'd be like, sucks. Screw you, MLB. You got to change this. Is garbage.
Yeah.
Let's 100%. Go back to the replay on that.
Yes, exactly.
So anyway, cool. Well, I'm excited to focus a little bit more on baseball. We should be able to have some good conversations. Cool. Moving on to the last segment of the day. What I've got on the list here is I call it managing fires and stress in business. Talked about it a little bit, traveling this week and coming back and kind of dealing with that kind of stuff. How are things going for you? How do you typically, when a lot of things, Matt, come in from different directions, when you got lifestyle or, relationships or responsibilities pressing up against, decisions for business, or, you've got choices to make for a deal or account, or whether to do this or not do that because you've got some pressures in your life saying you've got to sacrifice these things in order to do that. And there's real people that are affected. Have you come across those kind of things, and how do you handle those things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like any business owner, I definitely have. And I think the first thing that I go back to, and this is just me personally, is I first off, I go back to gratitude. I think, just being grateful to be in the position that I'm in, because, this is quote unquote, it's a good problem to have when these things are going on. And so instead of getting erratic, maybe anxiety creeping in, all these sorts of emotions that might be creeping into that, I think going back to gratitude and calming your nerves is really good. And then what I really like to do is I like to just start writing them down, and start attacking them one by one, because the main thing that gets in people's mind is, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. Oh, I got to do that. And then 2 hours later goes by and you haven't even done anything. I'd say make a priority list and just start checking those boxes off. You don't got to think about everything at once. Just start checking them off based on priority. Really calm your nerves. Try not to let all the outside things go on, and just be grateful that you're in the opportunity. I tend to just go back to gratitude when anything comes up in my life, just to be even little things like, there are people out in the world today that are in wheelchairs and don't have the ability to walk. Some people are in hospitals, things like that. So bringing myself back down to that surface level, being like, okay, how grateful am I to be experiencing all this? And number two, to be able to have the functionality, to be able to have the intelligence, to be able to have everything to get this accomplished, and then making a list. Because when you're just thinking about the 20 things you got to do, it can drive anyone crazy. And so just getting them down on paper and just start knocking them out little by little. And once you knock out that first one, you're going to start feeling better. Then you knock out the second one, you're going to feel even better. And then once you get down to 10, you're like, wow, I can do this. And then from there, you kind of unlock a different sort of potential. But that's how I attack it. And a little more mindset, I think, is important when it comes to that.
Yeah. What's the toughest decision you've had to make in the few years of business ownership you've had so far? What's been the toughest thing, and what was the result of making the decision? Did it go the right way? Was it something you maybe thought you should have done differently, or what do you got?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably the two opportunities of getting bought out of my company. Right when I started, and then a year ago, I had two different opportunities to get acquired to, do a couple, still be the president, but, private equity coming in and different organizations coming in and owning it. And, I obviously didn't do it. I think the way I look at it is when someone comes in, you don't have that control anymore. And I think Pivot Studios, the reason it is because of the ideas, and then I'm able to have full functionality. And then the other thing I thought about, I was like, wow, if it's this early on and people want to partner up, buy this, get a percentage of my company, I must be doing something right. Yep. And the whole reason I started this was to be my own boss, to not have to, have anyone say, hey, this is the way to do it my way. And so I'd say that was definitely the hardest decision, because in the back of your mind, you're like, wow, that chunk of change would be nice. It would be nice to know, hey, I'm making this every month, no matter what. But, brought myself back to ground level. Like, why did you start this? What's the goal? And, I think the reason I started it is I realized my happiness was more important than the money. And so, getting jobs out of school that were very lucrative, but I was very unhappy. And then going to Pivot, and back then not making as much, but I felt great. I was in a better spot mentally. I think that was a tough decision, because money can get in your head. It's comfortable. It's nice, but I had to really think about, okay, at the end of the day, what's going to make me happy? I wake up in the morning excited to do things. I'd say that was probably the toughest for me.
Yeah. That's, you hit it. That can be a very seductive thing, right? When someone's like knocking on the door, say, hey man, you're doing a good thing here. We want in. And it's funny because it happens to us too. Yeah. A couple times a month, someone's coming knocking on the door, and it's always under the cloak of, we just want to be partners. We just want to help you succeed.
Yep.
We're not trying to buy you. That's literally what you're trying to do. We just want you to, accomplish bigger things, and we're going to help you get there. And, maybe that's true, but at the same time, you have to give up something that you've worked really hard for and you might not be ready for. And, they do say the longer you're in business, the smarter it is to have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with knowing if I was, how would it go down?
Yep.
But yeah, it happens to us too. And, I'm just like, not interested, not interested, not interested, not interested. Nope, not interested. Because we haven't arrived at the place we think we can get to on our own,
Yep. Exactly. That's exact same mindset. And you hit the nail on the head there, I think.
I mean, we wouldn't say no to somebody wanting to invest in our company for, some profits back to pay that investment back, but not for a share of ownership. I think,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, just because, if someone's an investor and they're looking to make 4, 5, 6, 7% or whatever, on their investment and they see, and we can do that. Okay, fair enough. Someone wants to, invest $1 million and they want to get 70 grand back year over year. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll take that on, but, not for, not for 45% of the company or something like that.
Exactly. So. And I mean, you see it like even in movies and all these different things when these big guys buy these smaller organizations, it just hinders the culture so much. People are fed up. People get scared. They don't know what's happening. Things change. It's just, and so, yeah, I just personally, down the line, potentially, when I'm older, maybe trying to retire or something like that. But for now, I love the fact that it's all on me, all the failures, all the successes, it's on me and I can live with that. But if someone came in, started doing things and we started having more failures because of that, I'd be like, darn it, like this is so, but knowing that everything is on me, like I like that. And I think that's why I'm fit to be an entrepreneur like yourself. It's like, I love that it's all on me. Like that's what I want.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. I know I throw things at you, Matt, that I don't really prepare you for, but that's on purpose. Because hey, you are a perfect example of the type of people I want to appeal to with this show, is like people that are in the thick of it, building it. They're not huge yet, but they're, they want to learn more. And you're probably a little bit well beyond where a lot of folks that listen are, because you've got feedback that you can give folks. You've got wisdom that you've learned from wins and losses, so I appreciate you willing to kind of candidly tell those kind of stories about what you've been through. So that's cool.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, that's the only way you learn things is like, with me, I've failed so much, but that's a good thing because I have so much to share now, so that's why I love it. You don't learn by being comfortable. You learn by going out of the terror barrier and being uncomfortable. And that's what I continue to do every day, and happy to share that with other people because that's what, I love. I love giving back and doing things like that. So likewise to you. Yeah. All
right. Well, let's call it a day. This was episode 50, folks. We made it halfway to a century of shows on the daily BLP. It won't be too much longer. We'll be rounding home and hitting 100 shows too. It'll go fast. So thanks everybody for tuning in, for watching. You got questions, reach out. We'd love to talk about, what you're going through. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys again on Monday for episode 51. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.